president spoke about red lines regarding pressure on Russia and Ukraine, reports Sky News. Trump said he has such red lines in his mind concerning when he would stop applying pressure on Russia and Ukraine. However, the American leader added that he would not say exactly what that red line is. The US president also noted that he does not believe Russia is stalling in negotiations to end the war with Ukraine. Claiming he has red lines in mind but refusing to share them only adds ambiguity where clarity is desperately needed. In a war where lives are lost daily, silence about limits signals weakness, not wisdom. Even more troubling is his belief that Russia isn't stalling in negotiations, despite countless facts on the ground proving otherwise. While Ukrainian cities are bombarded and peace talks are repeatedly delayed or manipulated by the Kremlin, Trump chooses to give Putin the benefit of the doubt. About statements by Trump after May 19th phone call with Putin. On Monday, US President Donald Trump held a phone call with Vladimir Putin. Afterwards, Trump stated that Russia and Ukraine must immediately begin negotiations to cease fire and end the war. Later, the American president said he informed European leaders about the talks with Putin. This includes leaders of Italy, Germany, France, Finland, Ukraine, and the president of the European Commission. Before and after the phone call with Putin, Trump also spoke with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump characterized his phone call with Putin as one that showed some progress. He again confirmed his view that the Kremlin leader supposedly wants peace with Ukraine. Russia's threats during the Istanbul negotiations to seize more Ukrainian territory suggest the Kremlin may push for even tougher territorial demands. According to the Institute for the Study of War, ISW recalled that during the May 16th talks in Istanbul, the Russian delegation threatened to capture Ukrainians' Kharkiv and Sumy regions. Analysts believe this tactic signals that if Ukraine agrees to the Kremlin's initial terms, Russia will put forward even tougher territorial demands. Despite repeated calls from the US, Ukraine, and the Europe for a ceasefire to launch negotiations to end the war, Russia continues to reject such a course of action. The Kremlin likely sees ceasefire talks as an instrument of pressure to obtain additional concessions from Ukraine and the West.
Russia must show its willingness to make concessions of its own in any future bilateral negotiations, especially as the Kremlin appears to be setting conditions to expand its list of demands amid the peace talks.
At the meeting, Putin's representative stated that Ukraine must hand over full control of the Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporizhia, and Kherson regions to Russia before Moscow agrees to a ceasefire. Analysts note that such territorial demands are typically the subject of final peace negotiations, not preconditions for a ceasefire. At the same time, Russia introduced additional demands and threatened to seize the Kharkiv and Sumy regions. These tactics suggest that during future talks to end the war, Russian dictator Vladimir Putin is likely to make even tougher territorial demands if Ukraine agrees to the Kremlin's initial ceasefire conditions. Some European country leaders are afraid that US President Donald Trump is abandoning his efforts to stop the Russian-Ukrainian war, Bloomberg reports. According to the media outlet, a week ago, when Trump called for a 30-day truce and threatened Russia with sanctions, European leaders were full of enthusiasm. However, Trump's conversation with the Russian dictator Vladimir Putin disappointed Europe. After the conversation with Putin, Trump stated that Ukraine and Russia would begin peace negotiations, likely without the USA. At the same time, the US president did not speak about sanctions and did not mention any pressure on the Russian dictator. According to Bloomberg, several European governments have already expressed disappointment with the actions of the USA because Trump has still failed to force Putin into peace and may now abandon efforts to stop the war. Sources of the media outlet stated that among European leaders, there are concerns that Trump is retreating from peace efforts and that he clearly indicated he would not strengthen sanctions and is abandoning the proposal for a 30-day ceasefire. According to them, neither Ukraine nor Europe agrees with Trump's call for direct Russian-Ukrainian negotiations. Today, it feels like we are back into a much longer-term scenario in which Putin is buying himself and his military more time. Putin won himself more opportunities, and a ceasefire and resolution seem ever further away, noted Christine Berezina, managing director of the German Marshall Fund's Geostrategy North Program in Washington. Trump later stated that the USA is not retreating from efforts to stop the war, but he's considering whether it is worth doing so. According to the US president, he has a red line, after which he will withdraw from the negotiations, but he did not explain what exactly he meant. German Defense Minister Boris Pistorius has said that the conversation between US President Donald Trump and Kremlin dictator Vladimir Putin showed that Russia is not ready to make any concessions, reported by Pistorius before the start of a meeting of European defense ministers in Brussels, as reported by European Pravda. About details, Pistorius said that Trump's conversation with Putin would be one of the topics of the meeting of European ministers. He stressed that this conversation once again confirmed that the Russian side was only making statements, but there had been no evidence of the stated intentions so far. Pistorius noted that, as before, there were no concessions and Putin was only talking about a ceasefire on his terms, such as renouncing NATO membership, concessions on the occupied territories, and much more. He added that Putin was stalling for time and therefore a ceasefire was not yet on the cards. Pistorius pointed out that it must be said that Putin, as before, was apparently not interested in peace or a ceasefire, at least not on terms acceptable to others. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. Like and subscribe.